Hi, this is Stephen Lynn, the principal at Fort Zeller Elementary School, and we're here for another episode of We're All in This Together. And thank you for tuning in. Today we have a fantastic teacher, Mr. Rob Gantz. You can tell that we are both wearing something very similar, right? And Rob, you want to talk about why we agreed to wear this?
Yes. So many of my students know, and they've continued to see it on Tuesdays, even when we've been doing the remote learning, as every Tuesday morning for my morning meeting video, I've worn my bow tie. That's just because a couple years ago when I first started teaching, I really liked the bow tie, and I found one whose brand was called Bow Tie Tuesday. So that day, it stuck with me that I was going to wear a bow tie every Tuesday. And then last year when Mr. Lynn joined us, he had a bow tie one time. I said, hey, you have to wear that on a Tuesday. And then he joined in on the fun of wearing the bow tie on Bow Tie Tuesday. So we decided, let's do our interview on a Tuesday so we can both bring out our bow ties and let the kids see something familiar.
For old time's sake. Yeah. I hadn't tied a bow tie in weeks. My fingers they had to get back in shape, you know, the final fold where you kind of push.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my wife bought me a bow tie, the very first one, for Christmas, probably like 3 years ago. I had one that was a pre-tied, and I was like, no, I really want to learn how to do the self-tie. So she bought me one for Christmas like 3 years ago, and I could not figure out how to tie it. I watched YouTube video after YouTube video after YouTube video, couldn't figure it out, got so frustrated, I just threw it in my drawer. Went like 6 months without even trying to tie it again. And then one day I said, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna try it. I found a different YouTube video and I was able to do it, and I haven't had to worry about it since. But just funny how even I got so frustrated, something I wanted to do so badly, that I had to completely walk away from it for months before I went back to it.
Yeah. I think for me it was a gentleman from England, so he's got that cool British accent.
Yes.
And they never showed his face though, so right. I have no clue what he looks like.
Maybe it was me just using a British accent.
It could have been, right? So, anyways, thanks for joining the interview, and this was fun. I like your idea. So you're definitely a trendsetter in person at Fort Zeller, getting me to participate in Bow Tie Tuesday, and now apparently on screen. So that's fun. And fun and enjoyment and warmth and camaraderie, that's a big deal in schools. And as we've interviewed multiple teachers, we're finding that is the common theme that not only teachers are missing, but in conversations with families, kids are missing. When you think about being a teacher, when you trained to be a teacher, you have probably pictured what it's like to be a teacher, you know, what the day in and day out would look like, what the interactions would be like. And yet now nothing that I would imagine you've dreamed of as a teacher is happening right now. How are you making sense of being a teacher? Like, what does it mean to be a teacher right now? And what's important to you? And what are you doing to try to continue the mantra of being a teacher in this world where we're behind screens and we're pushing activities out and responding to students?
I'll be honest, it's been tough because, as you kind of already made mention, most of what we do as teachers and educators is all about that human connection. And while we are able to interact with our kids through getting comments from them on Seesaw, or even, you know, in a Zoom meeting with the class, because I've had a Zoom meeting with the class, or audio comments, it's not the same as seeing their smiles when you walk in, or when you are waiting in the classroom and the bell rings in the morning and they think they're gonna sneak up on you. They poke around the door and pop out and yell boo, trying to scare you to let you know that they're there. You know, you're not getting those things. You're not getting that connection with them, despite every efforts that we as teachers are making, and most importantly, all the efforts that the parents and families are making, because I know it's a strain on them, because this is not what they're used to in terms of schooling either, especially with, we teach things in different ways than when they were in school, and they know and remember, well, I was in school, so I know it's difficult for them as well, and they're doing the best that they can. So, and we see that, we appreciate that, all the effort that they're putting in and getting the activities completed. So while some of my classes trained me to have like a flipped classroom sense, that was only for one lesson, not for 3 months at a time. And even when you have that flipped classroom, you are sending the stuff home for them to do online, but the next day you're interacting with them in person.
Yeah.
So I think
now for those who aren't familiar with the term flipped classroom, it literally is basically flipping roles in some ways. You want to talk a little bit about what flipped classroom is for those who have never heard that term?
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of what a flipped classroom is I don't want to say what we're doing right now, but in a sense what we're doing right now, where we would provide a video that is essentially teaching the content, and the child will do that at home, and then the next day in school you dig deeper into that content and say, okay, this is where you struggled, so I can help you with that, or this is where you really excelled, so I'm going to enrich your learning with a different activity now. So it's very similar, except now, unfortunately, we don't have necessarily the means to be able to do follow up, do the remedies within, within that human interaction that we would normally get.
Yeah. I mean, as I walk through your classroom, something I really appreciate is the sense of camaraderie and teamwork that you've built into the classroom. I'm sure you have to be missing that.
Oh, absolutely, I'm missing it. And like I said, I've been one of the very lucky ones where I can say I've had about 98% of my class participate daily. So I know I'm getting that interaction with them, but it's not the same where, you see them working together on a project where you give them a challenge to build something, and you see them working together to build it, and feeding off of each other's energy, where that's being missed right now.
Yeah. Now, part of camaraderie is being able to lean on each other. So again, something I appreciate about you is that you worry about the well-being of your children in the setting of the school. What do you worry about most about our children and our family nowadays?
I just worry about everything. Like, I think about my own family situation, where my wife also being a teacher, so she's working on flipping her lessons and doing things for her students. But we are at home with a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old who need us pretty much constantly. Like, they need constant attention. And I think that is what I worry the most about with our families, is them feeling overworked, overburdened, or not getting the things that they need. Because I know a lot of people are still out of work, where, we as teachers, we're very lucky that we can still work and provide this service to the children and the families. So I worry about those who are out of work, or those that are working still while trying to do these activities with their children, and just being overworked, overstressed, and overburdened. Because I know I feel that at times. So I know if I feel that at times, I'm sure many of our families are feeling that as well.
So what is the role of grace? Grace is a word that had popped up in a couple of our previous interviews. What does the role of grace play in this reality that we're in now?
When I think of the word grace, I just think of being very flexible, and I want to say, not saying lenient, but lenient in the sense of, being flexible with your expectations, and just being so grateful at just the participation within the activities, because that sometimes it might be all they have to be able to get onto an iPad or a device to complete the activity. So if it is not 100% perfect, I think the grace means not attacking it with a critical eye, just being grateful for the effort that was put forth, and saying, I really appreciate everything that you did do. Keep up the good work, very proud of you. Those types of things, I think, is how we can extend that grace to our students and our families.
I think gratitude is healthy, not just towards those we're giving it to, but also for our own self. Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you're a father. And then your wife is also a teacher too, so you guys are really doubling the service to our community. Um, how has the role of being a working father impacted you as a teacher, especially these days?
Well, I think just it's really opened my eyes more to those families that are more like having a stay-at-home parent. It really opened my eyes as to how hard they work on a daily basis, being at home with their children, and also made me extremely eternally grateful for my children's daycare teachers and the things that they handle all day, because I know our two children, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, can be very exhausting, needing, and demanding throughout the day. And then they're working with, say, 10 to 12 3-year-olds, and there's only 2 of them. So that would be like if we had 12 in our house, you know, for the 2 of us to juggle those. So I've been very grateful for what their daycare teachers do, but also just very I have admiration for those people and families that have the dynamic where they are at home all day with their children, because that can definitely be trying for anybody, even the most patients.
And being in trying situations, and I think every parent out there is watching can relate. We have those trying moments with the ones that we love the dearest too. But there are, you know, there are days where I think a couple of us have joked about this. There are days where we just don't like our children. We'll love them unconditionally, but at this moment, I don't like how you're acting. I don't like, you know, and that can be very trying.
I don't like the choices you're making right now.
Right.
I love you. I 100% love you. I don't like your choices.
Yeah. So then all of that anxiety and stress is on us as parents. And then add in being a teacher, or for all of the parents out there who are also working, whatever the professional responsibilities are. How are you taking care of yourself mentally, socially, emotionally, mentally, physically even? What are you doing to take care of yourself? I was speaking with a gentleman that I greatly admire, and he was a trainer of mine when it comes to mindfulness. And he reminded me of the old analogy when you're on an airplane and there's an emergency, they always remind you to put the oxygen mask on yourself and put yourself in the best position to assist others. So, you know, as somebody who works at a school where everybody's working so hard, in a community in which everybody is working so hard, how are we all taking care of yourself? How are you taking care of yourself?
Well, first, just a little backstory. It's interesting that you brought up, you know, the story of in an airplane emergency, because I believe most of my students know, so a lot of the families know, that before becoming a teacher, I was actually in the United States Air Force. And I flew on cargo planes, and part of our job, if we carried passengers, was we had to give that same speech of, if you were in an emergency, to make sure you put your mask on first so that you can help somebody else. Because if you don't get your mask on and you're trying to help somebody else, and you don't get theirs on, now you're both in trouble. Whereas, you know, you need to make sure you can take care of yourself. And that was one thing that we on the crew always emphasize, is like, if there is an emergency, we're going to put our masks on first, and then we will be around to help you. Now, granted, our masks were much more portable than, you know, say the passengers' masks and things like that. But yes, you made mention of making sure I'm taking care of myself. One of the things I do, and my students are well aware of this too, because they've made posters for me and they always ask me about it, is I'm a very avid runner. So I've taken this opportunity to run more during the daylight, because typically my runs are in the dark. So I've been able to get some runs during daylight, whether it's, you know, during a lunch break window or right after finishing, you know, posting lessons or reviewing comments and things. Been able to get out and run. One thing, you know, and I've been trying to keep my mind sharp too by doing different types of challenges and signing up for virtual races. I did have a disappointment, you know, a couple weeks ago, but one that was expected. I'd been training for a 100-mile race that I was going to do this summer in Vermont.
For the audience, he did say 100 miles.
Yes, I was training for a 100-mile running race that unfortunately got canceled, which once all this kicked off, I was kind of expecting, but even when you got that, it still hurt. So I've taken I've done things to kind of embrace that mindset of being an ultra runner. So one thing I did was over Easter weekend, starting Thursday at 4 p.m., which was when we had just finished, we officially entered on to break. I did a 4x4 by 100 challenge. So I started at 4 p.m. and every 4 hours for 100 hours, I ran 4 miles. So I went out at 4 p.m., I ran 4 miles. And at 8 p.m., I ran 4 miles. And at midnight, I ran 4 miles. And
so you are still running in the dark.
Yeah, and then at 4 a.m., I ran 4 miles. And I did that until I finished, which would have been Monday after Easter at 4 p.m. And I ran, it totaled 100 miles over that time span. And it was really neat because, and this is all part of my social, emotional well-being, is I'm part of a running group on Facebook, and I was posting each of my laps on this running group in Facebook. And then, so after probably lap 6, for each one of my laps thereafter, I had at least one person from the Facebook group that said, hey, I'm gonna go run the exact same time you're running. So we'll run virtually. And then for the very last lap, there was probably about 40 people within the Facebook group that were all over the world. There was somebody from Norway that ran at the same time. Somebody from Germany ran the exact same time. And
it's a Forrest Gump moment.
Yeah, and then somebody, and they posted pictures of themselves either during their run or before their run on the group, and somebody made a collage of it. So there's a really cool collage.
That's cool. I don't think you even told me that much.
I did not. That was one of those I kind of kept close.
Yeah.
A lot of my goals I keep close just because I didn't want to, make it known, and then I end up getting to like mile 76 and getting hurt and then not being able to finish. So I like to keep it.
Yeah, fair.
In routes, but it was really cool. I'll have to send you the picture of the collage because
it
was really neat to see, and it got a lot of people that said, I've never even run 4 miles before my life. I've only ever run a 5K, which is 3.1 miles. But today I'm going to go out and run 4 miles just so I can say I ran 4 miles with you.
That's cool.
So it was really neat.
So how does this habit of setting goals and releasing yourself in an activity that you don't get to do during the school day, what role does that play back into being a teacher for you in serving the community?
Well, I think, and we kind of go back to how you're talking about grace, is that, I set these goals for myself with running and things like that. However, I know there's a lot of things outside of my control that may prevent me from getting to those goals. So I have to give grace to myself. And then in the same sense with becoming a teacher, you think and you encourage your students to set goals for themselves, but also to give themselves that grace if they don't meet their goal. But you find ways as a teacher to facilitate their goal setting and goal reaching, because you can't, because you can't reach their goals for them, but you can facilitate and help them and help give them the tools that they need to reach those goals. And I think that has helped them.
I definitely see that. The fact that you are so open and gracious in sharing your running experience with the children, in a roundabout way, I think you're also modeling this idea of grace for yourself. Setting goals still, demanding a lot of yourself, but also practicing the many faces of what grace can look like. Mm-hmm. So that's really important, which is also important to mental health. So you and I, we've talked about the importance of mental health for our children. And the last few weeks, my own son is a first grader. So if we were in the Fort Zeller zone, he could just as easily have been in your class.
Right.
And he's got an amazing first grade teacher, but he has really been argumentative and angry. And in conversations with him, he has basically said it's actually because he loves his teacher so much that he's really upset. Not obviously not in his words. He's still trying to find the ways to express it. But as dad, I'm gathering that he's angry and frustrated and really sour at the idea that his first grade year got cut off in the way he was picturing it. What is the role of mental health for our children, if you don't mind me sharing what your thoughts are and how important it is, and what do we have to do for our children these days to really keep them motivated, encouraged, and valued?
I think, and something I try to do within my classroom is just to celebrate each victory, because if you think about it, and it's something I've learned in classes and things I've seen, is that when children do things and they say, hey, watch me, or look at this, they have that excitement because it was something that before they did it, they felt was impossible. And then they're so proud of themselves for being able to do it and accomplish it. They just want to share that victory and that moment with you. So I think the best thing that we can do for them, and even for ourselves during this time, is celebrate those victories with them. If it is, and just trying to keep in the lens of the online classroom, if they are asked, read a line of words with the new spelling pattern, they read all of the words correctly, like celebrate that, build them up. If they don't read them all, build up the part that they did read correctly. Don't harp so much on what they got incorrect, but point out all the wonderful things that they did already complete. And then I think when you do that, that helps them want to achieve more, and they want to go after it, because they're going to remember the feeling that you give them, whether it's a feeling of gratitude, praise, or if it's going to be criticism. And then they're like, well, I remember the critical. They're going to remember whatever moment is the most recent. And those
are very intuitive, and they're very sensitive to that, certainly. And I can't agree more. I think that's really important, that our children are motivated to keep coming back, and by giving that positive reinforcement, they may not necessarily need their mom and dad to tell them to get on a seesaw.
Right.
That if we nourish them in that positive way. And also, there's a role that our parents can do, and it's a really enjoyable role, which is providing that praise at home too. And the more the children associate seesaw and the activities that we push out, not in the way that they've been used to, but if they associate it with something positive, they can certainly want to come back.
Yeah, for sure.
So how about we wrap up with any words of encouragement and wisdom that you might want to offer from the perspective of a working parent, a teacher. Something that I personally connect with you is, we're one of the few fathers at Fort Zeller who are in the teaching role. What words of encouragement might you want to offer to our parents who are watching this and maybe hopefully can relate to some of the frustrations and joys of this remote learning world we're in?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to all of the families for taking the time to listen to this, but more importantly, just for everything that you are doing for your children during this time. Because as a working parent, I know it is not easy trying to do both, to do the schoolwork and be a parent. So I know that it's challenging. I know that sometimes you feel like your patience is running thin, but I hope you know that your children think the world of you, just like we at the school think the world of you. Very appreciative of all the hard work. And, and it's kind of, I think about it because I just think about the box that we received last week from our PTO, a box full of sunshine that we got from the parents and the families, where parents and families of our students were writing notes and things like that. So we know that you guys appreciate us as a staff and a faculty for what we're doing, but we want you to know that we appreciate you as well. all the hard work that you are doing. I know it's not the learning environment you envisioned for your child. I know parents of second graders are going to be heartbroken not having like a second grade graduation, or missing field trips and things like that, but keep doing what you guys are doing. It's remarkable the progress that the kids are still making, and that progress wouldn't be possible without the hard work that you are putting in. I know we're putting in a lot of hard work, but you on the front lines doing the stuff with your children, you're putting in a lot of hard work, and give yourself some grace. I know you might be frustrated at times, but understand you're doing amazing things. Your children think the world of you. We think the world of you. So just keep going, and we can't wait to actually get to see everybody again.
I think that is a great way to close out. Grace and self-compassion, right? Compassion to ourselves as parents and as teachers. Going back to the oxygen mask, take care of yourself. And you know what? A common theme, Mr. Gantz, is also gratitude, and so I appreciate the way you wrap that up. I think, and Mr. Gantz is not just speaking from his heart. I think he very much reflects the staff. We are all really, really grateful and appreciative of everything, every little thing, too, that you have put forth on behalf of your children. We know that the world is different. We also know that there are greater priorities out there beyond schooling, but what you have put forth, I've said this before, the rate of participation at our school is excellent compared to my understanding of the rates in other schools. And so here in Elko, we're very blessed to have a family and a community that really does rally. So we are very, very grateful. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. We are posting this video on our Fort Zeller, Principal Fort Zeller YouTube channel. Our PTO, if you haven't been checking out the Facebook page for our Fort Zeller PTO, we encourage you to check it out. They are also pushing it out. You can check out this video as well as all of our other episodes on the Facebook page, on the Fort Zeller PTO Facebook page, as well as the Principal Fort Zeller YouTube channel. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Mr. Gantz.
Thank you. Bye, guys.